And we are live with another episode of BS Busters. This is
Part two.
this is part two because part one was how can I put this? Um, Part one failed because Discord was acting
Hey,
like a bitch basically.
I was being polite.
No, I'm not going to be polite because in the middle of a podcast, it just shut down. And here's the worst thing: Discord crashed Wednesday night. My internet went out Friday for like 8 hours.
What
So,
the heck's a decimal?
and I've got Verizon, so I've got Verizon Fios. So I don't know what the hell is going on. But
Yeah,
I guess
I've had random internet outages.
Well- you have Comcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I heard Comcast was out too. I don't know what happened. I think the sheer amount of people using,
The internet?
using streaming and all that stuff just overloaded the servers. Now, I don't have any proof of that. This is pure speculation, but it makes sense. But without much ado, let's everyone introduce ourselves, and then we'll continue with Kenoshi's topic, which was what his idea of the future of gaming was. So, ladies first, then the gentleman, then myself, and then we'll dive into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the BS Sisters Week podcast. I am Jewel Writer, Eli Moonstar, and we have to use a save point in order to resume this.
Yeah, Discord just crashed. Kenoshi?
Yeah, I was saying that cloud gaming in the next, couple decades is going to be a viable option for gaming, and I don't think physical media is going to go anywhere soon. I still think it's going to be an option, mainly as it pertains to PC hardware, of course. Not so much the actual medium that you get the games on, or pertaining to console hardware, not pertaining to again the medium that you get that stuff on. That, the actual hardware, will still be a thing, but cloud gaming's coming, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you're going to see more games that are going to be download only. And if you want a physical version, it's going to be akin to limited run. Like there'll only be like 10,000 physical copies. And if the game flops, then those are going to be really rare. The game you'll be able to get it digitally, but physical copies are going to be rare, if impossible to get. Now this isn't going to happen anytime soon. This will probably happen in the next 10 or 15 years. But it's coming. The train is coming.
Like, it's like watching the ball at the New Year's Eve party.
Or it's like that movie. It's like that movie. Shit. Damn, I forgot the name of the movie. It was directed by George Romero and had stories by Stephen King. And basically, Creep Show. And there's one story in the first Creep Show where this guy gets buried at a beach where the tide has gone out up to his neck by a jealous husband who this guy has been going with the guy's wife. And basically, he's already killed his wife. He did the same thing to her, buried her in the sand up to her neck where the tide came in and drowned her slowly. But the same thing's happened to this other guy. Like, you're slowly, the tide's coming in, you're buried, it's coming. That's basically how it is, how I think it's going to be in the future for physical media. Like, do I think it's going to go away entirely? Well, no. I mean, you can still get CDs of, which is a physical media of, like, every song you want to hear, but increasingly, a lot of songs are being released digitally where you just download them to the device of your choice or on your computer or whatever, so your smartphone. So that's where I think we're going over the next 10 or 15 years. So you know, get prepared. get a bigger hard drive. get a SD card, whatever, a micro SD card.
Yeah, you're gonna need one of those big giant petabytes.
Yeah, I got a 10 terabyte hard drive. I was like, fuck it, I'm going for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. In the future, I'm gonna buy a 10 terabyte hard drive to back up my entire computer.
Well, I did it mostly because I got tired of fighting my way through because I have two hard drives innately in my computer. One is a solid state drive that's like 240, and the other one is like a standard hard drive that's like a gig, not a gig. That's a terabyte, but it's just like at this point I'm just like I just transferred most of it except for the OS onto my my 10 terabyte drive because it's easier. It's easier.
Yeah. Enjoy having a brick for SD card.
I mean, you know, look. Here's the thing. Personally,
spinning disc, the way games are being handled right now, spinning disc, those old spinning discs aren't going anywhere anytime soon. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, even now with disc-based media, like even cartridges, you're not going to get. I mean, I hate to break this to people, but with games being as big as they are right now, you're not going to get anything that is like. I mean, you're getting games now that are on the smaller end of the spectrum are like 70, 80 gigs nowadays. Okay? And these are like double A games. Triple A games, 100 plus gigs, okay? The size of these games are only going to get bigger as the assets get more complex. What?
I was saying massive because there's so many of them.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's not even massive in a lot of cases. It's just more complex. Like, I mean, if you're making an RPG, RPGs are way more complicated now than they were in terms of complexity, or at least they should be, compared to what they were, you know, 5 gens ago, right? Like, Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite RPGs, but NPCs did not have to do much in that game. Yeah. Whereas an RPG, even a JRPG from like 2000, let's say Final Fantasy 12, NPCs had to do a lot in that game, far more than what they had to do in Chrono Trigger. And I like both of those games. I like Chrono Trigger more because it's nostalgic for me.
I'm questioning you on that. Seriously, they mostly are just moving objects that you could talk to and give quests from.
That's true for a lot of that's true for NPCs in Chrono Trigger. NPCs in Final Fantasy 12 actually had a simple behavioral algorithm that determined what they did in combat and stuff like that. So it was like there was just more going into what the NPCs were doing than in.
I was about to say, isn't that the AI for your partners?
No. Basic NPCs also had that built into them because that game began its life originally as a MMO, and the code was still in there. So just by virtue of that, the game was more complex than what you had back in the day. Which is, I mean, really, I mean, I've said this before. You want technology to move forward, not move backwards. Like I like I like the Mario games, but if I was playing Mario games that they didn't fundamentally change from the 8-bit era into the 16-bit era.
There's some things that don't need to evolve. NPCs is probably one of them.
Into the 16-bit era or the 3D era, I'd be like, okay, come on. I mean, you know, it doesn't have to be a drastic change, but something needs there needs to be some type of evolution of the genre. I
get where you're coming from, but as I was going to say, NPCs are one of the few things that don't need to really evolve.
I disagree.
I think they do.
I disagree. I disagree.
You're kidding me. Our NPCs are characters that do not have any significance to the story or plot unless they are quest givers.
Okay.
And you're saying that they need to be complex?
I'm gonna lay down a scenario for you, and tell me which sounds better, okay? And I'm going to use a RPG, well, an RPG like experience that both of us can agree needs to be shaken up. Pokemon. It's a very simplistic RPG like game, okay? No matter what Pokemon game you play, it's basically going to play through the same thing. You're going to fight an NPC, you're going to fight NPCs and their teams, you're going to run across monsters that you'll either capture or cause them to faint. Really, you're killing them because you never find that creature you fainted again. It's dead. You killed it. But we're being nice, okay? So wouldn't it be interesting if you played a Pokemon game where you're given a choice to join the quote unquote nefarious team, and you decide to do it? You literally decide to do it, and it changes the entire storyline because you're not trying to become the very best there ever was in that area and defeat the gyms. You're a criminal. You're shaking them down for Poké Dollars. You're doing nefarious plots to get super Pokemon. You know, or even better, you defeat some trash scrub, some scrub bug trainer. But then they get mad and follow your ass around, and they literally they overtake your rival. Like, you're thinking your rival's gonna be the kid that like you met early on. No, it's that kid you beat way towns ago when you first got started, and they've actually gotten their shit together. You could do that with a more advanced algorithm for NPCs for such a simplistic game. To me, that would be more interesting than the same shit we keep on getting with Pokemon. You know,
I get where you're coming from, but seriously, the NPCs do not need to evolve that much at all. But I'm gonna say this: it would be interesting to at least have a rival growth of sorts between more than just one character.
yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, and I guess it's kind of dovetailing what I think the future of gaming is going to be. Unless you want to go next, Jewel.
Much as I'm gonna hate myself for saying it, I know that the cloud is coming. Much as I'm gonna be regretting it, but something tells me if they screw up like how Stadia did, or some of the other things like the Ouya, then I could see that it's gonna be a slow growth into the cloud.
Yeah, but Ouya wasn't a cloud-based gaming system. It was
I'm using examples of
just abject failure.
Hard.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
Because if anything, there is such a thing as progressing, but there's also a thing as of going in the wrong direction and going into a tree. And if we're not careful, we're going to be seeing a lot more trees in our future. And
Fair
I mean
enough.
the bad graphically designed ones.
Fair enough.
At
Um.
least I kept mine short.
Okay. Okay. Here's my thing. I think the future of gaming is going to be in is going to be AR. And when I say AR, I mean augmented reality that we can't imagine as it is right now.
And it's not to be confused with the kind of reality that requires a headset.
No, there might be a headset, but you're literally just gonna put a thing on and sit in a chair, and it's gonna plug right into your brain, and it's like you're gonna basically we're gonna reach the point.
Thank you for giving me Sword Art Online moments.
We're gonna reach the point where we'll be able to digitize your consciousness into a virtual world. I think this will happen in the next 50 years. Maybe even 30 years. I think that you'll be able to play MMOs and RPGs and sports games that will transcend what they can do today. I think at first this will probably be used for medical purposes, like if someone's in a coma or has been brain damaged, so that their brain can get used to doing things. But I think, of course, it'll eventually become something that'll be done into gaming. Now, in order for this to work, you'll need there will need to be a quantitative leap in how well things are essentially processed, if you will. Like the computing we have right now couldn't handle this. It couldn't handle the type of data that you would need. The cable connections we have now. I think the fastest cable connection, and this is experimental. This isn't commercially available. The fastest internet connection that we can go right now with the technology we have is like 100 terabytes. It's the fastest you can go. Now that's really fast, but you have to remember.
It isn't bad, but
No, that's really good for games now. But I mean, if you're talking about digitizing the mind of a human being and having games that are literally you're creating an entire reality, the amount of space and data that would have to be used and computing that would have to be used in order to that's a drop in the bucket, really. So basically, I see the future of gaming being that. I see the future of gaming being to the point where people can upload their consciousness into a game, let's say an MMO, and like the MMO would be drastically different from anything we've seen to this point, because most of the MMOs now are just fucking clones of World of Warcraft.
I was about to say, as far as I know, there's only two big MMORPGs: World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV.
And Final Fantasy XIV is very small compared to World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is the top of that, is the king of that mountain.
Yeah.
So I mean, basically,
as much as I am aware of what World of Warcraft is able to do, it clearly needs a retirement or a sequel.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, what I'm saying is this: I think the future of gaming will be people digitizing and uploading their consciousness into, living literally a second life in a digitized reality. Kind of like the Matrix, actually. I could legitimately see that. Like, if you're someone who is your body's deteriorating, like you have some incurable disease, or maybe a disease that they have a cure for, but it's going to take a long time for your body to get well. In order to keep your mind occupied so that you're not just, languishing away mentally, they upload your consciousness into this game where you can do shit.
Kind of like being a fish in an aquarium.
Or someone who's in a
the Matrix.
No, those animals that are in a zoo but get enrichment, so they aren't just sitting there looking and just wasting their time. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think that would be really cool to basically see to go into an MMO where the AI is so advanced, where an NPC is almost virtually indistinguishable from another human player. Where, unlike a lot of, or even a single player RPG where instead of having set characters that you can essentially recruit to your party, you can basically recruit anyone you want to if you're talented enough to basically, I don't want to say coerce, but if you're charismatic enough to entice them to join your party, they'll do it. No, anybody, that some little kid who you help him sell flowers in the NPC opening beginner village. If you play your cards right, you can get that kid to join you, and he turns out to be pretty badass. Kind of like Donald from Fire Emblem Awakening. That's where I see the future of gaming going. And you'll probably see the technology start to come out in like 30 years, but it probably won't be perfected for another 20. Basically, you're gonna have to before any of this happens, you're gonna have to see a qualitative leap in computing power and all that type of stuff. And that's not happening anytime soon. So, in my opinion, until that happens, you're going to keep on getting slightly prettier versions of shit that we already have. Because no one is really innovating in the gaming sphere at this point in big ways anymore.
It's too much money. At least that's the thing. That's the thinking.
Either that or they just ran out of ideas.
That's a possibility as well.
It's like, think of something new. I'm out of ideas, man. What do you think I am, a machine?
But
Careful, your words might come back to haunt you.
I think the possibility is more if they're out of money. They're not out of money, it's too much money.
I mean, that could be
Maybe
the
we
case.
gotta keep pumping out remakes and reboots and stuff like that, and adaptating books and stuff like that. And it's because they don't want to risk the money. They don't want to risk, they don't want to risk displeasing their investors.
I can understand that, but I mean, for me personally, I'm just so damn tired of, how can I put this nicely? I am tired. I am personally tired of, I'm tired of the same shit over and over again. I want something new. I want something new. Not everything has to be new. There's some things where it's like, okay, I just want it to be slightly iterative of what came before. But, with other things, it's like, look, do something like, stop making new Batman movies. You want to do something in the Batman universe, well, make it new. Do a Batman Beyond movie. That's a character who had one movie, and it was a direct-to-video thing. And it was Return of the Joker. Like, I mean, you can still be in that universe and share some of the same beats, but tell different stories. I'm not saying just throw all the mythos out the window, but I mean, there's other shit to explore in that universe.
To look at.
Yeah,
right?
It's like can we have a Spider-Man movie without hearing about Uncle Ben getting shot? Please.
To be honest with you, I thought you would rant on the Batman being used.
Well, I mean, I think I've ranted on that. Can we see a Superman movie without seeing Krypton get exploded yet again, or it being referred to?
Yeah, that'd be kind of nice.
Cause
I mean, we got origin stories. There's references to past stuff already.
it would.
I mean, we don't need a reboot every 5 years.
Here's all I'm gonna say. I think it would be cool to have a Legend of Zelda game that had Link as a playable character, like as the main character, but didn't take place in Hyrule. No Ganondorf, no Zelda.
I was about to say, no Hytopia.
No Ganondorf, no Zelda, just Link out doing heroic shit. It doesn't always have to be Hyrule.
Yeah, I mean, sure, you can have the Legend of the Triforce and stuff, but there's places that are beyond Hyrule, or places that could be explored, like how we had the Oracle of Seasons and Ages.
Well, I mean, we've already pretty much figured out that Hyrule is just a small country in a greater world. But they just keep on going in Hyrule. It's like, there's other places to go. Could we please just stop always Hyrule, please? I mean, it seems huge, but not really. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, at least have a more open world, like, oddly enough, Mario.
Well, at least most of the Mario games at this point have moved beyond just the Mushroom Kingdom. Thank God. Oh God, I'm so tired of just going to the Mushroom Kingdom.
As I
Um,
said, oddly enough, Mario would be the best example of exploring new areas.
I guess so. So with that being said, I guess we can move on to the next section. Unpopular opinions. Who wants to go first? This is a new section. Basically, you will state an unpopular opinion and why you hold that opinion, and we as the other panelists get to either agree or disagree, state counters. You know, it's an unpopular opinion. You get to defend it, and you get an entire. Let me set the timer. You get 1 minute of uninterrupted placing your argument. So let me get the timer ready. Who wants to go first?
If neither of you two want to, I'm going to take the first bullet.
Okay, go.
Okay. Well, the one thing I have an unpopular opinion of, oddly enough, I feel like RPGs are becoming a faded thing, and it's going to be worse off because people keep on blending RPGs into other things, and it's starting to get on my nerve that we can't even tell what RPGs are anymore.
30 seconds.
Yeah, I would agree.
Keep on making your argument. You have 25 seconds left. Come on.
I know. I'm trying to not rage here, but here's the thing: if everything is supposed to be RPG like, then we're gonna have every game genre gonna hide RPG elements. I'm quoting here, just so they could at least say that they are RPG when they really are not. And I'm gonna say Final Fantasy 14 is no fucking RPG. It's a alien beating up.
It may be an unpopular opinion, but I agree. Kenoshi, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree too. I mean,
I'm trying not to rage. That's why I was holding back.
I agree. I think that the RPG. I think people throw that terminology too loosely. Go ahead, Kenoshi.
yeah, I was gonna say, look what happened to Mass Effect. I mean, it was most people who are into that game said it was a straight RPG when it first came out, and then when the second game came out, it was pretty much a shooter with RPG elements.
And then the third game, it was just a straight up shooter with very, very light RPG elements.
Yeah, because they wanted to, again, like I said earlier, game development, for whatever reasons, a lot more expensive, or if they want a lot more bang for their buck, they don't want to make investors mad, so they gotta cater to the least common denominator.
That's true. And they keep on dumbing shit down for
The masses.
for
I know
people.
I know some people who weren't too happy with The Witcher 3 because they thought it was too
Actiony.
catery. Yeah, too actiony, too catery to the common gamer.
I mean, I can see where they're coming from with that. Personally, I found The Witcher to be. I didn't like the combat system in any of the Witcher games. The Witcher 3 had the most accessible combat system, but it still wasn't like that enjoyable to me. I know people are going to get mad at me, and they're going to be like, you don't like The Witcher. I'm not a big fan of The Witcher. I didn't like the first game. I didn't like the second game. The third game is the best playing one, but that's not a big compliment when the combat in the first two was so shit.
Trash.
Yeah, it was shit. The first Witcher's combat was so bad that CD Projekt Red had to remake the combat system and re-release it.
Oof.
Like, it was bad. They called it The Witcher Plus. And then the second game, like, the combat was just more refined version of the first game's combat. But the combat in those games have never been that good. And I'm gonna say something else. I don't think The Witcher is really an RPG because you don't really control party members. Gerald's skills and abilities aren't really tied to his level. They're tied to shit you find and getting better weapons and stuff. Now, certain weapons have level caps, but It's not like, you know,
It feels like Legend of Zelda.
I,
That's it.
yeah, it has more in common with Legend of Zelda. Yeah.
Well, by the way you're describing it, it sounds more like Dark Cloud, because you don't really level up in Dark Cloud. You level up your weapons.
Yeah, but I mean, at least with Dark Cloud, like, you had multiple characters you could control, and they each had their own weapons and levels and shit. The Witcher, you're just Geralt of Rivera, who's kind like, here's the thing, like, Geralt is not a very likable protagonist. The world he's in is not one I want to get lost in or enjoy. You know, I know some people.
War. It's always depressing.
Yeah, it's dark, depressing.
It's a medieval apocalyptic. What?
Yeah, it's a medieval, low magic, apocalyptic. Like, think of it like this, okay? If you want to understand the world of the world of The Witcher, imagine the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where they didn't destroy the ring and Sauron won. But there's little pockets of places where humanity is still fighting back against evil. That's basically what The Witcher's world is. It's a shitty world to be in. It's not fun at all.
How do you, you know, people, I've seen people do this, and I don't think you probably should, but how does that compare to the world of Fire and Ice? The song Fire and Ice, because that world is, I hear, pretty depressing.
Oh yeah. Like George R.R. Martin. George R.R. Martin is like Stephen King in that, like, if you've ever read a Stephen King book, Stephen King will write a character, and you'll fall in love with that character over 2 or 3 chapters, and he'll kill their asses off in a grisly way too. It's like, fuck, why? Like, that's like the characters you get attached to. Either they will die horrifically, or they will be maimed or horrifically injured.
I was gonna say, I thought they have the worst kind of memory to ever see.
Well,
as in, you feel sorry for them ever witnessing such horrors.
well, okay. I'll give you an example. In the first book of Game of Thrones, A Song of Winter is Coming, or is it A Song of Fire and Ice? Basically, the first book in the series, it basically sets the stage of everything that's going on. Ned Stark has his youngest kid is this little boy named Bran. Okay, Bran is climbing this tower. Now, what he finds, he looks in the window at the top of the tower. What he finds is Jaime Lannister and his sister, who happens to be the wife of Robert Baratheon, making out. Well, actually, they aren't making out. They're full on fucking. Okay, I just... And Jaime Lannister is shocked. He picks up poor little Bran and throws him off the top of the tower. The kid breaks his back, and he's a paraplegic. Like, he has to be carried around. It was at that point that I said fuck you to this book, and I basically just I walked away from Game of Thrones for like a year after that. Only after did I come back and finish reading it. And I was like,
and let me guess, it got worse.
Oh yeah, it gets worse. I mean, but here's the thing. Here's what I'll give George R.R. Martin. Characters who are really fucked up and really evil, when he might let them get away for a while, but when he finally gets back onto their asses, like when they get their payback, oh, it's sweet. It's like a
brewing stew waiting to be finished, right?
Well, the Mother Dragon's brother, the one who basically pimped her out to the horse barbarians, to basically build an army so he could take on, take over, fight his way to the Iron Throne. He basically said something really disrespectful to her and her husband, and he was like, "Give me my gold and let me go." He's like, "Oh, so you want gold?" So they tied him down in this chair, and they gave him a golden crown, but not in the way you think. They took some gold coins and they in a crucible, and they melted them down into molten gold, and they poured the shit on his head, killing him, but while also giving him a golden crown. I mean, it is, yeah.
That is irony in the harshest of ways.
Yeah, they did that shit in the book. Now in the TV show, it's like it's all CGI, but the book, it's way more descriptive. My point is this, like, basically, I would say that the dark, depressing world of The Witcher and the dark, depressing world of Game of Thrones are similar in their level of fucked upness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wonder how the heck that that was able to be transferred into 3 games.
Uh, Money. They were making money, and people like The Witcher has a niche fan base who really love that franchise. So
Oh, I know that franchise well enough because if anything, it runs into my usual category, card games, and well,
yeah, Gwent.
uh,
Yeah, but anyway, I guess it's your turn. What's your unpopular opinion, Kenoshi? Wait, let me get this. Let me get the timer. Say it, and then I'll get this timer started. And you have 1 minute.
I think mine is, I don't mind that a lot of these, graphically intense games exist, and a lot of these, like your Uncharted, and these technical marvels. I don't mind that stuff like 1886 exists, or I don't mind any of that. I don't mind any of that stuff existing. Obviously, a lot of that stuff sells. A lot of that stuff does appeal to a certain crowd. But my problem is that it seems like the media likes to, or certain aspects of this gaming community, if you want to call it, thinks that's the only thing that matters. That graphics are the only thing that matters. That, graphics over gameplay versus the proper combination of both graphics and gameplay working together in tandem to create an interesting experience. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else.
All right. I mean, I guess I share some of your stances on that. I mean, I don't really feel bad about graphically intensive, graphical powerhouse games. The thing that pisses me off is when people get hyped up about it, and these games turn out to be shit. Yeah, they're pretty, but that's all they have going for them is, man, this graphic. Look at this graphics. I'm like, I don't care.
yeah. This is how I was gonna say Final Fantasy 7R really made people cry in their beds in joy of how the newest Final Fantasy 7 game is in HD high definition and will be the definitive version of Final Fantasy from now on. I got a middle finger for that.
I mean, I can understand where you're coming from. I'm just telling you, I'm not like, oh my god, this is like the best game ever. Oh my god, this is the worst game ever.
Yeah, for me, there's a reason why I do not judge graphics on any kind of scale because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and if anything, all 11 of those eyes do not always know what beauty is.
Yeah, graphical fidelity for me is just a part of why I might like or dislike a game. Because there's some games that graphically are kind of ugly, but I enjoy them. So, I can't say, well, this game looks great, but there are games that look great that are terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that the Order 1886 looks good. I mean, the game is shallow as hell. I know people enjoyed it, but it's
that's a I call that I call it an interactive movie than a game.
well, I mean, it is a game. I mean, I've seen people play that game and they enjoyed it, but I mean, basically, okay, it's a $60 game that can be beaten in about 5 hours. Now, personally, I'm not cool with that. But
I was about to say 5 hours. Does that include the cutscenes?
that includes the whole thing. That's 5 hours. And I'm like, okay, this game is $60. It has no replayability. It's $60. Now, here's the thing, okay? If a game is $60 and it was like the beginning of the 7th gen, like the Xbox 360 or the PS3, I could say, okay, these people are just now getting into HD gaming. They're just now getting into this technology.
And are showing off.
Well, no,
right?
they haven't gotten their hands like they're showing off on the graphical fidelity, but they're not gonna have time to make this game long or anything like that. We got tons of games like that at the start of generations that were like let's keep it real. A lot of Nintendo's first games for like their launch games for their systems, and everyone's systems are kind of like meh. Like the first Crash Bandicoot's nothing special. I would say most of the Crash Bandicoot games are nothing special, but
Yeah, I could admit that some of the games that came out during the first 2 to 3 months of most systems, including Nintendo,
yeah,
they are basically showcases.
yeah, they're basically showing what the console is capable of, but they don't have a lot of depth. Okay, like, I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. Pilot Wings, like a lot of people like that game. It's just a fucking demo for Mode 7. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just a big demo for Mode 7.
You know, if anything, I got an extra thought for this one. If anything, Pilot Wings should always be the opening game for a Nintendo system
To show the graphical capabilities, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it was just a fucking demo for Mode 7. That's all it was, for the different modes that the system could do. Mode 7, Mode 8, Mode 9, Mode 10, Mode 11. That's all it was there for. It was there to show off the graphical capabilities of the system. And I'm not knocking it, but, I mean, if you take away the graphical fidelity of Pilot Wings, it's really nothing special. But that's not my unpopular opinion. Here's my unpopular opinion. I know some people might get angry at me, but I don't really give a shit because it's my opinion.
Speaking of,
Yes.
1 minute on the clock, ladies and gents.
Yeah, I'm about to do it. My unpopular opinion is that the PlayStation 1 was never a good console, and as a matter of fact, I still take the N64 over it. Now, here's my reason why, okay? Yes, the PS1 had the bigger library. It had more games than the N64. But here's the thing, okay? Just because you have a bigger library doesn't necessarily mean and let's equate this to a real library with books. Just because you have a library that's full of books doesn't mean that library is better than a smaller private library that has less books. Because here's the thing, okay? A huge library can have a lot of books, but if you only like one section of that library, or just maybe 5 or 6 books in that library, percentage-wise, statistically, that's a shitty amount. If you take a box of N64 games, I guarantee 50% of them games in that box will be good. You cannot say the same thing with the PlayStation. Maybe 1 or 2. My minute is over. I had more stuff, but I will let you guys come back at me if you disagree.
I gotta say this. I was wondering when somebody would punch at the PlayStation for that. And I honestly thank you for it.
Kanoshi, your thoughts?
I would take the 64 over the PlayStation just for the fact that I think some of their games, there's at least for me, there's a lot more games that hold up. I just can't go back to really either of those consoles. The N64 and PlayStation are, as it pertains to retro systems, those are the ones that would be the most difficult to go back to.
All right. Okay, so no one's really disagreeing with me, so I guess I can continue with my argument.
One thing.
Yeah.
Is, I think even though the N64 did this first, I think coming out with dual analog sticks was a decent idea.
Yeah, but why? I mean, it's like Sega with the 6-button controller. People shouldn't have to buy a second controller because you fucked up the first time.
That's a good one. I agree with that. Too.
I mean, like if you own an N64, which I do own an N64, The controller that it came with is the only controller you need to play every game on that fucking system. If you have a PS1 and you don't have a dual axis controller, if you have the base model one that came with the system, there's whole sets of games that you cannot play because they fucked up when they designed the system. But I mean, back to my point. I mean, look, listen, okay. The N64 had a smaller library. This cannot be denied. But I guarantee you, half of that, at least for most people, half of that library is, if not memorable games that they have nostalgia for, they're legitimately good games. Okay? Whereas, I mean, yes, the PS1 had tons of games, like dwarfed the N64 library, but literally I want to say 80% of those games were shovelware and trash, or they were so niche that only a very small amount of people would like those games. Okay? Like, if you look at the really big games for the PS1, they were heavily marketed. These games aren't known for being good because they were good. They're known for being good because people bought them and they, it was the it thing to have. Like Metal Gear Solid, people like that game because it was advertised to shit. Same thing with Final Fantasy VII. Same thing with what was another game they marketed the shit out of for the PS1? I want to say Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon.
I get on your case a little bit about Spyro the Dragon, but I could definitely agree with the Crash.
Let me put it this way, okay? The best games aside from the RPGs, okay, and even some of the RPGs on the PS1 aren't really that good. I'm just keeping it real. Aside from the RPGs, if you put the best games on the PS1 against what you had on the N64, I would say the N64 had the better game. You could say, well, the fighting games. You mean the shitty fighting games that were on the PS1? Like Street Fighter versus Marvel, or Street Fighter versus X-Men? That game? That shitty ass game on that system? I think not. You could say, well, okay, let's say Crash Bandicoot versus, what's a good comparison? Because I don't want to use Crash Bandicoot against Mario 64 because Crash Bandicoot is a 2.5D platformer, whereas Mario 64 is true 3D.
Probably is considered something close.
Okay, let's say Yoshi's Story.
Okay.
Which one's better? Which one's held up? Now, personally, I don't like either. I don't like Crash Bandicoot or Yoshi's Story, but
hey.
I don't. I don't like the Yoshi's. I don't like the Yoshi's games.
I would rather play Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, that's subjective. Okay, so we'll say that's a wash. But Spyro the Dragon, take all three Spyro the Dragons. Okay, let's put all three of those games against the best N64 open world platformers. Let's put them against Banjo-Kazooie. I think not. I think Banjo the Bear unzips his pants and whips it out and slaps him in the face with it. Banjo-Tooie, I think he whips it out and slaps him in the face again. Okay, so what could go against Spyro the Dragon 3? Well, I mean, pick Conker's Bad Fur Day.
I was about to say, if you put Conker against that, I think Conker would probably be having his dinosaur eat that.
Actually, I think he'd unzip his pants and piss on Spyro the Dragon. He's like, "You breathe fire? Put your fire out, bitch!" That's actually an attack in order to defeat the boiler in the catfish's vault.
I was about to say, you have to defeat the fire creatures.
Yeah, you have to defeat the fire creatures who go inside the boiler, and then basically you take various weapons and destroy the boiler's big brass balls. It's pretty. I'm telling you, I would take Conker's Bad Fur Day over Spyro the Dragon 3. I would.
Yeah.
Yes, Spyro the Dragon 3 has better controls. I'm not gonna lie. Conker's Bad Fur Day has not great controls. But I'll tell you, the sense of humor, the music, So much better. The multiplayer.
I was about to say, Spyro had multiplayer?
No, Conker's Bad Fur Day had multiplayer. Almost every rare game had multiplayer on the N64, and like oddly good multiplayer too.
Except Banjo-Kazooie 1, as far as I know.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. But yeah, I think that aside from RPGs, the case could be made that there are more good games on the N64 than there are on the PlayStation, and the library's smaller, so the percentage of good games is higher. I would say, like, okay, what are some great racing games on the PS1? Gran Turismo.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if there's anything else, but I'm trying to remember
Well,
because
that's the big racing game for that system was Gran Turismo. Now let's look at the racing games on the N64.
we got Mario Kart.
No, I'm
and
not
Diddy
even.
Kong Racing.
I'm not even including those two. I'm talking pure, like, closer to reality racing games. Top Gear Rally.
Oh, that's one I
Cruising
never heard of.
Cruising USA. Cruising Exotica. Beetle Adventure Racing. Snowboard Kids 1, Snowboard Kids 2, Extreme G, Extreme G 2. That's 7 right there. And
Yeah, I think we've seen tire tracks right now.
you wanna add? Okay, let's add Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing. 9, boom, right there. All of those are really good racing games.
All those games are leaving tire tracks.
And I didn't even include Pod Racer because that game sucks. Oh no, it's not. It doesn't suck. It's just not good. It's just not very good.
I was about to say that if anything, Gran Turismo could only beat that game.
But yeah, I think that the N64 was a I think that the N64 was underappreciated because people bought into the hype of the PS1. But I mean, even the multiplats, like if you had a game that was on the N64 or the PS1, I would say about 6 out of 7 times out of 10, the N64 version would be, if not on par, better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't believe me, look, I got the perfect example for you. Gauntlet Legends. Gauntlet Legends on the PS1 is a terrible fucking port. I mean, it is one of the worst ports I have ever seen for a game. Gauntlet Legends on the N64, despite being on a little tiny cartridge, is fucking awesome. It is one of the best ports I have ever seen for a game. All right.
That's be impressive.
It's really good. And they did that with
Easy.
a small cartridge, like much smaller storage medium than what you had on the N64. Think about that. They were able to create a great port using what, 4 gigs? A 4 gig cartridge? 5 gig? What? Not 5. 5 megabyte? No,
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that. It was. Let me look it up, because I don't want to be wrong when I'm saying some shit like this. So people are like, have someone actually.
Oh boy.
I don't want
This
any.
could take a while, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it's not gonna take me that long. I can say Gauntlet Legends 64 cartridge size.
And for clear reference, the Gauntlet Legends has been on both the N64 and the PlayStation.
Yeah, it was.
Though I'm not sure how both of them fared, but both of them were able to be played on both their systems.
The one on the one on the one on the PlayStation is trash. I mean, it is fucking trash. It is. Oh, that game is bad.
I was gonna
Oh.
say you can only have 2 people on it, or how it handled.
Yeah, 2 people and they fall apart while they're running around. It is bad. It is. Um. Damn, doesn't tell me. But I know that the N64 version was smaller than the PS1 version because the PS1 version used the full disc. It used 600 megabytes. Because you have to remember it was a 700 megabyte disc for the PlayStation 1. And yet the N64 is like little tiny, 32 meg cartridges, 64 meg cartridges, and it's a much like the superior version was on the N64. And that's just because the N60 like they actually took their time to make that game work for the system, and it wasn't just some shit that was thrown out the door. But I mean, the argument that we can't put this game on the system because the cartridge is too small is bullshit. Because look, Resident Evil 2 on the N64.
Which is plenty to say.
And the whole game was there. It wasn't like the only thing that changed
is the MV is the
FMVs.
FMVs.
The FMVs were taken out. The FMVs were taken out. They actually did the stuff in game with the engine, and the audio was compressed. That's your only real
iffy situations with the N64.
But the rest of the game was there.
Which is quite impressive when one thinks about it.
So I don't want people come up to me telling me, "Oh, well, the N64 was crap because it had cartridges." I mean, like I said, most of the multiplats that were on the N64 and the PS1,
PlayStation.
the N64 version 6 times out of 10 was better than the PS1 version. Not all the time, but if it was a multiplat, I would say the slight edge went to the N64. Exclusives, the N64 had better exclusives, except for in the RPG department. And if you're someone who lived or died RPGs, which I was one of those people who live or died RPGs, then I know how it's like, man, I really want these RPGs to be good, but
Yeah.
It hurt me. It hurt me when RPGs didn't
jump all the way to the N64.
There's only like 5 RPGs on the N64.
And I could guess one of them would be Ogre 64, Paper Mario.
I mean, there's Ogre Battle 64, Hybrid Heaven from Konami, Quest 64. Well, I own all the RPGs for the N64, so I'm very familiar with all of them. Quest 60. There's Hybrid Heaven, Quest 64, Ogre Battle 64, Iden Chronicles: The First Mage, Flying Dragon, which is like it's more of a RPG beat 'em up hybrid. And lastly, Paper Mario, which Paper Mario is kind of like an RPG light. It's not really like,
It's the soft version of RPG, right?
Basically, yeah. So, I mean, my point is this. I'm not... I think that and the nail in the coffin for telling me that the PlayStation 1 is this great console is because Sony released a PlayStation Mini. It fucking flopped because that console was not as good as people thought it was. If
I was about to
Nintendo
say, there were so many problems with it. It probably was insulting.
Well, the thing is, though, a lot of those great PlayStation games didn't belong to Sony. Those weren't
Yeah,
first-party
but
games.
I mean, if like here's the thing: if people were so fucking nostalgic about the PlayStation, they would have went and bought that shit, even if it wasn't that good. But here's the thing: it wasn't. You bought into the fucking marketing hype, you PlayStation Sony fanboys, because you want it, because it was new and interesting, and the marketing got you, because you were dumb and you fell for the fallacies. Let me explain something to you, okay? If Nintendo next week said we're coming out with an N64 Mini and it's gonna have 24 games on it, okay? If they said we're coming out with an N64 Mini and it's gonna have, I mean, really, best case scenario, if Nintendo said we're coming out with an N64 Mini, it's gonna have 64 games on it, that'd be fucking awesome.
I mean,
I was about to say,
you kinda have a
awesome
point
and
there.
ironic.
What?
You kind of have a point there, because when I was going to college, the most common system I saw when it came to retro systems was an N64.
Yeah, because the N64 was the party system. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
If Nintendo said we're coming out with an N64 Mini next week, they said we're coming out, they announced it next week. And they said we're going to have 32 or 64 games and all, like, here's the thing. Only, like, they could, Nintendo internally could pull out games and fill up half of that roster. Wave Race, Mario 64, F-Zero, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Paper Mario,
Don't
shit.
forget the racing game.
Yeah, Mario Kart, Diddy Kong Racing. That's 8 games right there. But then they're like, oh wait, but there's also third-party games that were on the N64 that were fucking awesome. Gauntlet Legends, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark. It would be awesome if Perfect Dark was there. Yeah, I completely forgot Perfect Dark. Perfect Dark, Winback. I mean, my point is this, okay? The N64 had, yes, it was a smaller library, but literally like 75%, well, 75% of those games were, okay, of all the games released on the N64, half of that library were games that anyone could pick up and enjoy, okay? The other quarter of those games were niche, but even the niche games were still kind of good. And only about the last 25% of the games on the N64 were shovelware trash. Whereas the PlayStation 1 had a huge library. But like half of those games were shovelware. Literally 50% of the games were trash.
Which is kind of a painful thing to remember.
So forgive me if I'm not impressed with that console. So basically all I'm saying is this. The PS1 is overrated. It's trash. The N64 was the better 5th gen console. The only reason the PS1 sold well was because they had third-party exclusives.
Marketing like hex.
And marketing. Not because it's a great console, because like I said, Sony came out with the PS1 Mini, that shit flopped. But I guarantee if Nintendo said we're coming out with the N64 Mini, that shit would fly off the shelves. They'd have to do 2 or 3 runs of that shit. Think about it. So yeah, I know some people will disagree. I know some people are going to get mad when they hear that. I don't really care if you get angry. It's my opinion, and I'm allowed to have it. So, with that being said, anyone have any free topics they want to bring up before we wrap things up?
Well, if anything, I did found something that might be up your wheelhouse, but I'm not sure entirely. I posted those two up on the chat, kind of. Well, actually on Discord. The game is called Siralam, and sorry if I mispronounced it.
No, it's pronounced Cyrillim.
Okay. I was actually wondering if you heard of it or wanted to check it out.
Yeah, I played the game it's based off of. I didn't play the card game. Like when I heard they were making a card game, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was wondering what your thoughts on the series.
Well, Cyrillim, the series, is essentially at its core. Think of it like Pokemon, but how can I put this? It's like Pokemon, but not lame.
Ooh, I can hear the sweetness off that one.
It's like Pokemon. Yeah, it's basically Cyrillim is like Pokemon, except you can fight with more than just one or two Pokemon, one or two monsters at a time. Matter of fact, you can get a team of monsters of like 8-9 monsters. Of course, you can only have a certain amount in your fighting roster at any given time, but like different monsters have synchronicity with each other. So like if you have certain monsters in your group and they have certain traits, they can make the monsters the attack and defense and stats of other monsters in your team go higher or lower. It's like there's a lot of metagaming in Cyrillim. I never really got into it because the graphics were just too shitty for me. Yeah, they were too shitty for me. But I know some people like that type of thing. So, for me, when it comes to monster fighting games, like, I'm more Dragon Quest than Pokemon these days, because Pokemon is too...
Simple?
I was going to say stupid, but simple works.
How kind of you.
It's kind of stupid, ignorant, I don't know. I didn't like it. But anyway, anything else? Anyone else wants to?
Who are you?
Kadoshi, anything you want to bring up?
Nah, I'm good.
All right.
I was about to ask, Red. What's going on at your end? Or do you got any plans for it?
I plan on doing absolutely nothing. I plan on streaming the shit out of. Oh shit! They brought back Parasite. I plan on streaming the shit out of old TV shows. I plan on playing video games on my new monitor that I'm still getting used to because it's new and it's bigger and it's got all these features that I got to figure out how to use and shit. Typical stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
At least I asked because if anything, usually you have something going on.
Well, I mean, I guess our big thing would be, I guess next week we can talk about, with the advent of the TurboGrafx Mini, what mini console hasn't been gotten to yet that we would like to see?
We have some wishes.
Yeah, it'll be a wish list of what we like. So, that being said, anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
No, not really. Yeah.
I thought you had.
Well,
I thought you had a stream coming up soon.
I haven't. I might do something tomorrow. I might do something.
All right.
If you feel like it, it's if I feel like it, I don't know, man.
For me, I'm getting ready for a D&D session tomorrow. So.
Really? Is it a new one, or are you continuing the story forward?
Our group is currently doing Tiamat.
Oh, really? Y'all trying to fight that bitch? Okay, knock yourself out.
Trust me, I got the Dragon Slayer blade, and I've so far slain 3 dragons.
So really, so they must be non-chromatic.
Oh boy.
They're non-chromatic dragons you fought. And which version
I
of Tiamat are you fighting? Are you fighting the divine Tiamat, that's been living in the plains of hell, or like
so
a?
far we so far we only found followers of Tiamat,
Oh, well, be
and
careful, cause that bitch is slippery.
oh trust me, I, the only thing I gotta worry about is a horny mage.
Well, you know, each of her heads count as an individual.
HP.
Well, not just that; they each have their own individual actions, so it's gonna be tough.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, don't remind me. I'll be I'll be lucky to at least slash one head with before I get able to get out of there with at least one limb.
Yeah. That's why whenever I play D&D, I play my favorite character to play as is the cowardly rogue swordsman. Because whenever they do some shit like that, I'm like, fuck this, I'm out. I'm like, you can't leave. Look. The reason I'm level 37 is because I know when to cut bait and swim. All right, I am not dying for this bullshit right here. Okay, all right. Fuck you guys, I'm going home.
I'm a for Sadly, I'm a for hire person, as in I got hired by the wizard and getting paid plenty of beeping gold in order to try to help him slay the beeping dragon.
Yeah, I'm the
And and I'm wondering, is he paying me enough?
yeah I'm the fuck you guys and I'm going home guy when it comes to
Dragons.
Well, quite another day.
yeah. Well, I mean, because the thing is this, right? It's like in D&D, yeah, there's a resurrection spell and all that. But if you're fighting a demonic dragon, evil dragon god like Tiamat, she basically can she like if she kills you and devours your soul, it can't be resurrected. So that's permadeath. That character is dead forever and
Yeah.
forever. Also, even if you kill her body, she's a divine being. She can make another body. So eventually, but I mean, she's an evil. She. Like, here's the thing. Okay, Tiamat is a dragon. Okay, she is the embodiment of non-chromatic evil dragons. Okay, she's the mother of all non-chromatic evil dragons. Like here's the thing. Okay, we have enough time, so I can go off on this rant. My problem with playing D&D with certain DMs is that they want to throw dragons out like it's nothing. Dragons are like a top tier existence in D&D. Okay, they're old and they're smart. They're crafty. Okay, they have access to spells. They're not to be fucked with or trifled with. If someone says,
And do not insult them, and do not insult them when they use dragon breath. They will get your hate for that.
just period, just period. Like, here's the thing, okay? If you are someplace where there's supposed to be an elder or ancient dragon, right, and you see young dragons in the territory, now if your DM is a dumbass, he'll be like, yeah, there's young dragons. Okay, first of all, here's what I know as someone who's run those campaigns and read the source material. If there are young dragons hanging out where old dragons also live, those are probably the old dragon's kids. Now, dragons only are motivated by three things: their horde, they're young, and mating. Okay? If you fuck with their horde, they will kill you. If you fuck with their mate, they will kill you. If you fuck with their kids, they will kill you. They will cast a spell to find your children. They will kill your children, your children's children. Basically, they'll cast a spell that'll leave a curse on your bloodline and come back after 100 years and kill those fuckers too, if any of them survive. Dragons are especially evil dragons. They do not give a fuck. They will come after you. And if you kill their kids, I mean, basically, like when it comes
Heaven
to
help your soul.
yeah, in D&D, when it comes to dealing with dragons, the way I look at it is it's like Godzilla, okay? Anyone who's seen a Godzilla film knows this, okay? Godzilla's motivated by three things. His food, which is radiation, his territory, which is, you know, if you mess with, you go into his territory. But if you really want to piss off Godzilla, if you really want to make him just really, really just, I must kill you, fuck with his kid. If you fuck with his kid, that's your ass.
I was about to say, if you screw with his kid, you got about 8 seconds before he starts looking for your rear end.
Yeah, and you know, basically Godzilla is the closest thing you're going to get in pop culture to a modern interpretation of a dragon that is actually successful. So basically, yeah, that's like, yeah, so, you know, some asshole, yeah, just throw dragons into this game. I'm like, why can't we fight Illithids? I can deal with Illithids. I can deal with them.
With me, my DM is saying that these are the followers of Tiamat, and that means they, as far as I know, we're cutting off Tiamat's people before we get to Tiamat.
Well, if you're dealing with the followers of Tiamat, really the highest level enemy you should be facing at the end of this campaign, because Tiamat is not going to stand and fight. Her big thing is a diversion and run away. The highest level enemy you should be facing is maybe a champion of Tiamat, which will probably be a corrupted.
A corrupted mage.
No, I was gonna say I forgot the name of that race in D&D that are like they're like a corrupted dragonborn. That's basically maybe, but not Tiamat herself. Because I mean, why would she stay there and fight you when she could live and fight another day? That doesn't make sense.
What I'm thinking. That we're trying to get to Tiamat, and her champions are getting in the way, leaving her to be who knows where.
But you know, look, listen. It's your DM's campaign. It's their thing. You know, the way I would run a campaign is completely different than the way someone else would run their campaign. So I'm not gonna be like, you better do it this way or else.
I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that so far we've ran into champions into the allies of Tiamat, and so far we came across 3 dragons and plenty of mages. Oh God, those guys! I know he got killed by 2 of them.
Yeah, it's tough. So yeah, basically yeah. You know, I'm kind of like I like D&D, but I'm not like enthralled with it. I don't think it's like personally these days I'm more of a Pathfinder guy. Like I'm more Pathfinder and Shadowrun. Because Pathfinder is more like D&D 3.0, 3.5, taken to the next level. Like
I was gonna ask if you've been with Pathfinder 2.
You mean the next edition?
Yeah.
I've been dabbling in it, but it's like I started getting into Starfinder, where you're like in space and shit with technology. So like I like that fusion of space and technology. Like, cause I asked one of my DMs one time, I was like, why can't I just have a dude who comes from a technological place and he has a gun? Like, well, you can't do that. I'm like, come on, man. You got dudes.
I was gonna say it depends on the setting rather than who you're dealing with.
Well, we were dealing with the typical Faerun setting, but it's all part like Faerun is in a world where you have like you know it's part of the crystal spheres and shit. So there could conceivably be other planets where there's technology versus magic, like, you know what I mean? And I even did a whole backstory for how the character could have gotten to where he was, but they weren't having it. So I was like, okay, whatever. At this point, I don't care.
Yeah, and also the closest thing you'll get to a gun in D&D or classic Pathfinder is a short bow, is a crossbow.
I mean, you can have a gun, but it's gonna have to be like the highest tech you're gonna get is maybe a flintlock. It would be easier for you to make a gun that shoots magic bullets in D&D than to have an actual gun. So you know. So that's what I wound up setting for. I wound up creating an artificer gnome dwarf hybrid who used a magic gun and had Magitech armor that I stole the idea from Final Fantasy VI.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, my DM was like, well, you're going to have to spend a lot of time building the Magitech armor. I don't care. So literally, like, when we had downtime, I'd go off on personal quests in order to get the pieces to build my character's Magitech armor. But by the time we got to, like, level 10, 11, I was basically one-shotting motherfuckers and using Magitech weapons and Magitech blades and Magitech missiles.
Was it worth it?
Yes, it was. I don't know why in D&D they're always like, you have to be a wizard or a warrior or a thief. I'm like, dude, if you had some gnomes with Magitech, they'd be fine.
I was gonna say that if you play your class and race right, oh man, you could be a nasty little effer.
Yeah, the only downside is that my character's what was it? My character's physical speed, because basically I had some really great boons, but I had to take some crippling effects too. So one of my character's legs was a prosthetic, so I couldn't move that fast. And dwarves are already kind of slow anyway.
Let me guess. You have a movement speed of 10.
It was disabled. It was like -10. It was not good. But I mean, hell, when I was inside of my mech, I was kicking people's asses, so it was a nice trade-off. And then I upgrade, and that wasn't even, in order for me to become a master artificer / blacksmith, I had to create a masterwork. So at level 20, that character, I made masterwork Magitech mechanized armor for my character. And that was basically what I did. It was expensive. It was like 30,000 gold coins for that character to get all the different components and shit like that. It was expensive. My character's personal money, I was damn near broke by the time I made it. But then I went on some high risk quests by myself and made that money back. Because when you've got armor that's self-repairing.
Self-repairing armor.
Self-repairing armor.
Your DM must be salty knowing that you have that character.
No, I earned it. Here's the thing.
I said salty because he knows that you worked very hard for that thing.
No, look, listen. The guy actually helped me create the character because here's the thing. At the end of the day, you're playing, yes, it's a game, but you're also telling a story. And, you're seeing how characters grow. And it needs to be fun and enjoyable. It can't be just,
I know. It's just that sometimes it makes me wonder how some of the people at your table feel with you having such power.
Well, actually, they liked me because I became the backbone guy. When shit got really serious and they were getting their ass kicked, they called me out and yeah, I used my my amulet of holding, which was actually just the amulet of holding was actually at a small space, but it was just big enough for my armor. I'd get in that shit and then I'd start kicking ass. It was great. It was great. I loved it. It was great. I got swallowed by a giant monster, but it couldn't digest me because the armor had had its own independent air supply, and I fucked that thing up from the inside. It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, your group at the table must have had laughs seeing some of that stuff.
Basically, think of it like Iron Man, except instead of using the normal Iron Man suit, it was the Hulkbuster suit. Basically, what I was wearing in order to kick people's asses. It was great. Look, listen, man. D&D is great.
As I said, your group of D&D group must have had blast.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we've waxed poetic about D&D long enough. Our next podcast will be Wednesday. We will talk about mini systems that need to be released that haven't been released already. We've gotten an Atari mini, we've gotten a Coleco mini. we're getting a shit.
We already got an SNK mini.
The Neo Geo Mini, the TurboGrafx 16 Mini, but there's some other systems out there that need minis,
Yep.
like the 3DO.
The N64, the Dreamcast.
I'd buy a
Yeah.
Dreamcast Mini. I mean, I already have a Dreamcast, but I'd buy another one. I'd buy a Mini.
Yeah, I think we could hold off our Dream Mini cast for later.
Yeah, so Wednesday will be mini consoles we would love to have. That'll be the big main topic. So with that being said, that's the end of this podcast. Remember,
Don't
rate.
forget, you can rate, comment, share, subscribe, give us some emails, give us some tweets.
That's right. And if you would like to reach us, you can reach me at the Mr. Red Fox BS Buster at gmail.com or at Twitter at Matthew Wesley Mr. Red Fox 91.
Don't forget, we got a Discord.
And we do have a Discord. The Discord link is in the description under this video, so you can click on that and join our Discord server. There you go. So with that being said, that's in the podcast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Peace, good night, and don't